The FC's tale starts amid the ruins and restoration of post-war Britain, not on meandering country roads. Families depended on every invention to live during a period when the country was attempting to reconstruct itself and industries were overextended. However, in the middle of this strain, a modest commercial van appeared that would eventually bear the burden of Britain's recovery, transporting everything from machinery to coal to furniture and milk. The FC was unlike any other van of its time, albeit few people remember it now. Its goal was practical, its design was bold, and its legacy was subtly deep. It is nearly inconceivable that a car that is so essential to everyday life could completely disappear from memory, leaving only faded photos and remnants in garages. How could a van that was so common and powerful just vanish? The post-war aspirations of the British automobile industry are closely linked to the genesis of the FC. Austerity, rationing, and a sluggish recovery characterized the 1950s and 1960s. Manufacturers were under tremendous pressure to create cars that were both reasonably priced and durable enough to satisfy the nation's quickly changing commercial demands. The Roots Group's brand recognized a chance to reinvent the light commercial vehicle. The FC, a forward control van that debuted in 1960, was their response. At the time, its unique cab-over-engine design maximized cargo space while providing drivers with a commanding perspective of the road. In the decades that followed, this arrangement would eventually have an impact on a large number of British trucks. The FC's innovative engineering was what really made it stand out. Although small by today's standards, the van's robust inline-4 petrol engine and ladder-frame chassis provided exceptional durability. Because of its relatively small turning radius made possible by the front-mounted cab, it was incredibly agile on small city streets. Drivers frequently marveled at the FC's ability to achieve things that seemed nearly impossible for a van of its size, such as carrying cargo significantly heavier than its size implied. It was a machine designed for persistent, everyday utility rather than speed or luxury, and it did it with a remarkable elegance. However, there were some shortcomings with the FC. Despite its innovation, the small cab made for a tight ride. Long trips might become uncomfortable, and although the engine was dependable, many small operators found it difficult to maintain it on a regular basis. More importantly, Ford, Bedford, and Morris, whose vans frequently had larger dealer networks and more aggressive marketing, posed a serious threat to Roots Group. The FC failed to attain the commercial domination that its designers had hoped for, despite its engineering prowess. These difficulties were made worse by Britain's changing economic conditions in the 1970s, which included rising fuel prices and more regulations requiring commercial vehicles to be updated on a regular basis. The FC had a subtly lasting effect on British families and small company owners that went beyond its engineering and commercial tale. For many, it served as a lifeline rather than just a van. Every day, neighborhood craftsmen, milkmen, and furniture movers depended on it. As the van rumbled through suburban streets, kids grew up staring out the big front windows. The FC, a constant companion in the narrative of Britain's post-war existence, is frequently seen parked outside family-run businesses or farms in photos from the time. It became ingrained in routines, memories, and even local economies, silently supporting the everyday difficulties and minor victories of common people. The corporation itself suffered as a result of the van's legacy. In order to secure their position in the commercial market, Roots Group had made significant investments in the FC, relying on its unique design and useful functionality. The FC was respected for its engineering, but it was unable to match its larger competitors' marketing expertise and well-known brands. The company's later designs and strategies were influenced by the lessons learnt during the FC's life cycle, especially with regard to comprehending the fine balance between engineering brilliance and commercial appeal. In a way, the FC's silent battles influenced the future course of British light commercial vehicles. Some FCs became renowned among fans due to their longevity. There are many tales of vehicles making many deliveries without ever failing catastrophically, surviving winters of unrelenting freezing, and transporting unfathomable loads across the untamed countryside. According to one such story, a small bakery in rural Yorkshire utilized an FC that traveled hundreds of thousands of kilometers carrying flour and bread along minor country roads. Despite its simplicity, the van's engine was practically unbreakable, and its suspension system, which was built to support large loads, enabled it to maneuver over uneven ground and potholes that would have crippled smaller cars. These tales, which were passed down through families and mechanics, transformed the FC from a straightforward workhorse into a representation of dependability, tenacity, and subtle engineering brilliance. The FC's last chapter was one of silent disappearance in spite of these attributes. Like many of its competitors, the FC was progressively phased out by the late 1970s when Chrysler Europe had acquired the Roots Group. Its continued manufacturing became unfeasible due to rising production costs, changing safety regulations, and competition from newer, more advanced vans. While some of the surviving units found a temporary second life in remote villages or as utility vehicles for small enterprises, many more were scrapped or allowed to rust in fields. Its decline was further accelerated by political and economic changes, especially the 1973 oil crisis. Few FCs are still in use today, and those that are highly valued by collectors due to their scarcity, historical significance, and association with a bygone age of British manufacturing. The Commer FC serves as a reminder of a bygone era when automobiles were designed with the silent goals of serving, enduring, and adapting. It was a van that carried the spirit of post-war Britain in addition to commodities. Its removal from daily life does not lessen its significance. On the contrary, it makes it a symbol of tenacity, pragmatism, and the unsung accomplishments of a generation of drivers and engineers who established modern business. The FC elicits feelings of nostalgia, continuity, and admiration for a car that put in more effort than most people would ever realize. The Commer FC is the vehicle that most quietly and effectively completed its task, leaving a lasting impression without much fuss, if you have ever driven by a small neighborhood and thought of the vans of decades past. Even though its narrative isn't featured in the news, it is still ingrained in people's hearts, memories, and photos of the people who used it on a regular basis. The next time you see a picture of a Commer FC, keep in mind that it's more than just metal and wheels. It's a van that silently advanced a country. If this Commer FC story struck a chord with you, then take a moment to subscribe and stay tuned for future investigations of Britain's vintage and forgotten automotive legends.